Hey everybody, Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com, reporting from my home isolation quarantine COVID-19 bunker. So I'm going to be making a series of videos, lots of different things, but the first series I want to make is how to get into different kinds of games. And this one is going to be about how to get into Necromunda. The reason I want to make this series of videos is because recently I got into Necromunda and into Blood Bowl, and it was actually really hard to figure out exactly what I needed. I went through a lot of work to figure out which books I needed, which accessories I needed, which terrain I needed, where the rules were not, and all of that. And so I want to save you a lot of time. If you want to get into Necromunda, the idea is that by the end of this video, you should have a very good idea of where you should spend your money so that you don't end up wasting money, and also that you don't get overwhelmed. Now, a couple caveats. I am recording this from home. My 4 kids are at home. Like at this very moment, they're actually not. They're out just going for a drive, not getting into contact with anybody. But as I make a lot of these videos, you probably will hear my kids in the background. And I'm not going to try to get them to stay quiet all day long as I record videos because they're stuck as well. So please excuse if you hear any yelling or playing or maybe even fighting in the background because I've got 4 kids. It's just going to happen. Anyways, so today, let's start with Necromunda. Wardrobe change! We weren't able to film any new Necromunda games, but I'd like you to refer to some of the previous games that we have. So after you finish watching this video, I'll put some links in the description to both our Necromunda narrative campaign and a few games that Steve and I played, so that you can go and check out the game yourself. Ready to go back? Here we go. Now, with any of the Games Workshop games, it often is helpful to start by buying one of their box sets if they have it available. Necromunda is a little strange in this case because they've had several box sets over the course of the years that Necromunda has been out. And I don't believe that the older ones that are, right now as I make this video, the only one that is in stock is Dark Uprising. I don't think the older ones are going to come back into stock. And I may be wrong, and maybe they will, but it doesn't really matter because there are advantages and disadvantages to buying the box sets. So let's start with talking about the Dark Uprising box set and what it contains. It's a huge money saving. It's a pretty steep price point, but if you actually break down what's inside of it, you would pay more if you bought everything individually. And there's even a few things in there that you're not really going to find anywhere else. And so it comes with the board to play on, comes with a bunch of modular terrain that you do have to assemble and paint. It's not just like this snap together terrain that's really easy to use. It comes with 2 gangs, the Corpse Grinder Cult and the Palanite Enforcers, but it comes with more than just a starting gang. It actually has quite a bit in it. I think it works out to more than your typical amount that you would start a campaign with. It also comes with the Dark Uprising Rulebook, which I'll talk about in a moment. It comes with tokens and cards and dice and all sorts of stuff. Totally worth its value. If, of course, you want to play the Corpse Grinder Cult or the Palanite Enforcers. If you or your friends are not interested in those 2 gangs at all, then obviously the box loses a bit of value, except that it still comes with a lot of things that you're going to want, like the board or terrain. Now maybe you already have a place to play, like a board that you can use, and you have terrain that you could use, in which case, that starts to lose more and more of its value. But it's a good place to start. Now, the Dark Uprising Rulebook is a very curious case of what this rulebook is and what it is not. So first off, it contains all the rules necessary to play Necromunda. So you don't need this book in order to have the rules to play. It also contains all the rules for the Corpse Grinder Cult and the Palanite Enforcers. It has scenarios specific to Dark Uprising, which is all about the Hive descending into chaos. And it has a specific campaign that you can play, which is the Dark Uprising campaign, which shows a Hive that's going into chaos. You don't have access to the trading posts. In this case, you scavenge. The Corpse Grinder Cults are looking for meat to eat, and it's a whole bunch of just, it's bad, it's craze, it's chaos, and it's really cool. So what it does not have, though, that the main rulebook has, is the other campaign that this rulebook comes with, which is your kind of de facto normal Necromunda campaign that has territories that you conquer and everything else like that. But even this book doesn't have everything you need in order to play that campaign. And so it's interesting. Which one do you want? Well, if you have this one and you just want to play the Dark Uprising campaign, you don't need this. You just don't. Because it doesn't really have anything else in it that the Dark Uprising book does not have as well. It does have its own scenarios, and it has scenarios based on Zone Mortalis and Sector Mechanicus. So the Zora Mortalis is just your 2D. You can actually just use the flat tiles and not have any terrain, which is fun. And the Sector Mechanicus is more your typical 3D kind of thing. And then it has a bunch of arbitrator tools as well, which are quite useful. So if you're looking, arbitrators are basically like they can be like a games master of sorts, or at least somebody who can throw in extra random stuff in campaigns. So if money is not an issue for you, and you just want to know what to get based on what will give you the best experience, then if you buy the box set with this book, I would still buy the main rule book as well. But you don't have to have it. Now, what you do want is going to be the Gangs of the Underhive, because this contains a couple of really important things. First off, it contains the rules for 6 of the main gangs, like your Goliath and Escher and Delac, those gangs, the ones that are the standard go-to for Necromunda. It also contains the Trading Post. And the Trading Post is a compiled list of weapons and armor and equipment that any gang can get access to between games in a campaign. Now, like I said in the Dark Uprising campaign, they only have scavenging, but it even has a suggestion that you could also have access to the Trading Post if you wanted to. So if you're going to be playing any kind of campaign where you want to be able to buy and sell, then you're going to need this book. On top of that, this does have the 6 main gangs. Most likely, you're going to be playing with one of those. But it doesn't stop there. We've got more books. I've got 3 more to show you, and then there's actually more books coming out. So let's go through them one by one so you can understand what it is that they each contain. So first off, we have the Book of Peril. And so each of the books seeks to expand on a different aspect of Necromunda. The Book of Peril expands on the bad zones, or the area kind of right outside of a hive that you go out into, so more like the wasteland kind of thing. It gives you rules for Venator bounty hunter gangs. This is a create your own gang with whatever miniatures that you have kind of rules, which is really cool. It also has rules for alliances and guild representatives. So alliances allow you in a campaign to be like, I'm allied to this, which gives me this benefit, but it gives me this drawback. And the drawback is usually having to give them some of your funds or whatever. So, but it gives you access to some cool benefit. It also has bad zone trading post items and events and its own terrain rules that are out there. And it gives you access to rules for a bunch of bounty hunters as well. So the Book of Peril is really cool for that if you want to play out in the bad zones. Oh, and I believe it even does it have its own campaign? It does not, but it does have scenarios for playing out in the bad zones. So there's no campaign for the Book of Peril. I apologize for figuring that out on the camera because, as you'll see, there's going to be some other campaigns. We've also got the Book of Ruin, which came out, I think, at the same time as the Dark Uprising box set. So this also has rules for all the chaos-flavored stuff. So it has the Corpse Grinder cult, but it also has the Chaos and Gene Stealer cults. Now these are just cults that you use Gene Stealer cults models and Chaos models to play. I had thought at first when I read it that it was a way to convert any cult or any gang into Gene Stealer cult. I thought it would be awesome to have like a Goliath Gene Stealer cult, but it's not that. It actually is just its own Gene Stealer cult gang and the Chaos cult gang. It has its own scenarios as well, has its own hangers-on. It has multiplayer scenarios. It has extra arbitrator tools, and it has a different kind of uprising campaign that it involves as well. And it actually has 6 different ways that you can change the Dark Uprising campaign that comes in this rule book. So this one, if you're going to play those campaigns, you're probably going to want to have access to this rule book as well. So that's really cool. And then lastly, at least that I have here, we have the Book of Judgment. Now, as you can probably tell by the cover, this does include the rules for the Palanite Enforcers. It also has alliances, and it has a really cool campaign called the Law and Misrule campaign, where instead of conquering territories, you're conquering like rackets, in other words, businesses of sorts. And if you're playing the Palanites, you're actually trying to keep order while this is all happening. They have an extra special cool attribute that if they keep anybody from getting the most number of rackets, then they actually get extra points as well. It also includes a black market trading post, which adds in more items, some Xenos origin, that are illegal, which there are specific rules for having legal and illegal gangs. You might think, wait a second, Necromunda, why are anybody legal and illegal? They should all be illegal, but they're not. Most gangs are actually sanctioned by the upper houses, so they're technically legal, even though they're participating in very bad business. It's still legal on Necromunda. And it has these special skills for the Palanites and some extra personae, in other words, an extra bounty hunters and hangers-on. Now, already there's more books coming out. There's a book that expands on House Goliath. I think it's called the Book of Chains. There's another one coming out for House Escher. So they're going to have more and more of these books that come out to give you access to more miniatures and more ways to play the game. But just understand that those are expansions, and you're still going to want to have access to some of these other books as well. So let's sum up here. If you're still confused, you're like, well, that was a lot of information, Matthew. If you want to just get into the basic game of Necromunda, just buy one of the box sets, and then buy whatever book has the gang that you want to get into in it. If you're just going for one of the 6 main gangs, the Gangs of the Underhive book is a great go-to. If you're going for the Corpse Grinder Cult or the Paladinite Enforcers, well, the box set will have the rules, or you have to buy the Book of Ruin or Book of Judgment, respectively. If you want to play Genestealer Cult or Chaos Cult, the Book of Ruin. And if you want to build your own cool Venator Bounty Hunter cult, or gang, sorry, then you do the Book of Peril. Now, obviously, if you want to be the arbitrator and run really cool campaigns, you're going to want to have access to as many of these books as possible so that you know exactly what it is that you want to do. You have access to all these different tools to make some really, really cool campaigns with your friends. I hope that was clear. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll see if I can address them in future videos or maybe even reply to your comments there. But as always, thank you for watching. Wash your hands and happy wargaming.